Some houses whisper secrets, some walls hide shadows, and sometimes when the night falls, you are never truly alone. This story takes place in a small town called Vismapur, a quiet suburban area where life moves at a slow pace. A man named Raghav had just moved into a small rental house near an old ancestral plot of land. A simple 9 to 6 office worker, he led an ordinary, solitary life, returning home late, picking up a meal on his way, and spending the night in the glow of his laptop screen. Raghav rarely used the kitchen, but on nights when he did, something strange happened. Each time he turned to fetch something from the counter, he felt a presence, a feeling that someone, something was watching him. At first it was just a shadow, a trick of the light, but then he saw it. Just a face, nothing else. No body, just a head, peering at him over the wall. Raghav blinked, looked again. It was still there, unmoving, staring. But he shrugged it off, convincing himself it must be a curious neighbor, an illusion or maybe exhaustion playing tricks on him. Days passed, and Raghav pushed the thought away, until one weekend, while chatting with an old neighbor, he mentioned it casually. He laughed and said, "Who's that lady behind my house? Every time I cook late at night, she stands near the wall, just staring at me. Creepy, honestly." The neighbor's face went pale. His hands trembled slightly. There was a long silence before he spoke, and when he did, his voice was barely a whisper. "What lady? No woman steps out after dark near that house." A cold sensation crept into Raghav's bones. The old man lowered his voice, glancing around as if someone might be listening. "You don't know about Maya Rani, do you? Years ago, Maya Rani lived in that very house with her only son. But one night he disappeared, vanished without a trace. She searched for him everywhere, losing her mind with grief. Days turned into weeks, and one night, unable to bear the pain, she ended her life. They found her body near the railway tracks, but her head was missing. That night, Raghav couldn't sleep. The words echoed in his mind. His room felt colder than usual, the air heavier. And then he heard it. A faint shuffling sound, a whisper of movement, the sensation of being watched. She was there, this time closer. He couldn't breathe, he couldn't move. And then he heard a voice.
"Did you see my son?"
He never remembered what happened next. When he woke up, he was in the hospital, feverish, weak, unable to move. The town whispered that the fear had broken him, that something had invaded his soul, draining his energy. He knew he had to leave, but before he did, there was one thing he had to see. He walked to the back of the house, heart pounding, hands trembling. He needed to know. He needed to see the wall from the other side. And when he did, his blood ran cold. The wall was 8 feet tall. No one could have stood behind it. He left that very night, never returned, never spoke about it again. But even today, he swears that when he closes his eyes at night, those gray eyes still watch him from the darkness,